Okay, so today we're going to continue with finishing the Woodsrunner rifle kit that we've been working on. We did some carving on the stock. You see some examples there, in the lower toe line, and some accent lines there. So check out that video if you haven't seen it. And there's also 2 or 3 other videos prior to this video that shows what's happened up until this point. So we're going to stain this with a product called iron nitrate. It's a product that we make here in the shop. Okay, so I think everything is prepared. We went through everything in quite a bit of detail about sanding a stock in the previous videos. And then, like I said, I think we did a decent job of carving it. It isn't absolutely perfect carving, but I think it's pretty decent. So we'll move on with that. So I think we're ready to apply the stain. Okay, so we're gonna just pour a little of this in the top. That's probably more than enough to finish a gun. So if you think of a bottle like this, it'd probably finish 3, 4, 5 guns maybe, I'm guessing. And gloves are probably a good idea, but it's not like nasty stuff that's gonna burn you. It doesn't have a lot of acidity left in it. I've probably used it many times without gloves, but gloves aren't a bad idea. We're going to use a little Scotch-Brite, dip it in the solution, and then scrub it on the stock. That helps burnish it down a little bit too. Smooth out the stock maybe a little more. The only real key with this is to keep it out of the inlets. You don't want it in the inlets. It's hard to heat if it's in the inlets. There's no need to stain anywhere that you don't see. Traditionally, anywhere you didn't see wasn't stained on a rifle. And it can react with the metal parts that fit in the inlets. So don't put it in the inlets. It's a chemical stain made from water, nitric acid, and iron mixed together. Now before we heat this, it's gonna look a little nasty. You can already see that it's not looking that pretty. It's looking kind of gray and kind of a crummy color. When you heat it, a chemical reaction occurs and the color turns to sort of an orangish brown color. With some red highlights, red tones in it. Maybe some yellow tones as well. That's the nature of it. When you heat it, the color changes a great deal. Take our time. Try to cover all the different areas. Now you can't really control the color as much as you can with aniline dyes, but usually the color's a good color. It might not be exactly what you want, so we may go back and tint it a little bit afterwards. Now, I spoke of aniline dyes. There are people that like to use aniline dyes, some very accomplished gun builders that use aniline dyes, but usually it takes some work. You have to use a series of different colors and build them up in different ways in order to get the. It's, like I said, very traditional. It's a chemical stain, so it doesn't fade, and more than anything, it's strong, uniform, and it looks right. You can see I'm being pretty careful to not get it in the inlets. I mean, if you slip a little bit here and there, it's not the end of the world, but don't intentionally put it in the inlets. Some people think that when they're staining a stock, they have trouble not staining the inlets. They think for some reason that it should be, but it really has no need to be stained. Traditionally, it's never stained, and all it does is cause problems. I'm trying to hit everywhere. Make sure I didn't miss any spots. Usually I put 2 coats on because I end up missing some spots. Catherine just pointed out a spot. But we may just end up using 1 coat if we happen to get everywhere on this. 2 coats will probably make it just a little bit darker. Not a lot, just a little bit. when I'm actually doing this, I'll often sit down on a chair and just lay the gun on my lap. It's a little bit easier to control and hold on to and get the job done. That will stain your jeans or whatever, so it's a good idea to use something, wear something that's kind of old and nasty. Once this stains fabric, it's stained. There's going to be no getting this out, that's for sure. Getting the ramrod groove a little bit here. That's one of the great things about iron nitrate, is that it's very, very stable and it's going to last. Aniline dyes are notorious for fading over time. There are some aniline dyes that are better than others, but none of them are as good as a chemical stain such as iron nitrate for maintaining the color over time, light fastness. See, I got a little bit in that inlet, but not the end of the world.
What about using iron nitrate on things that aren't maple?
Some maple's the primary wood you'd use it on. It looks awesome on ash, but ash isn't very available these days. But like I said, it looks very, very nice on ash. Cherry, it'll usually go sort of black. Walnut can go pretty freaking dark too. So maple is the main wood. Now there may be some other ones, some other woods that would do okay on, but maple's the big one for iron nitrate. Take a rag here and maybe just wipe off a little bit of the.
If it lays on the surface, will it like get splotchy?
Yeah, what'll happen is if it lays on the surface, it doesn't soak in the wood when you heat it. It'll start to evaporate, and it could be kind of like a little puddle of it that starts to dry up on the surface. That's only if the wood didn't absorb it, which wood usually will absorb it. So this is probably not really necessary, or not all the time necessary. Okay, so it looks pretty nasty now, to be honest. It has kind of a bad color. I don't really like how it looks, and I don't think many people would. We'll let this dry, and then we'll heat it. You'll see a chemical change occur, the color will change dramatically. So we'll give this maybe 15-20 minutes to dry, and then we'll be back. I see we didn't do the patch box lid, so actually let's go do that real quick. Now with the patch box lid, oftentimes I'll just put it on the outside, although I did spill some on the inside, so we'll probably just do this whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and take off that lid. Make sure everything's covered. So it's a good idea to have your box lid not super tight, because by the time you stain and finish it, and with any kind of changes in humidity, it may tend to stick in the stock. So it's a good idea to have it not so tight. And the way you can adjust the fit is just take a 3-cornered file and file or sand a little bit of the dovetail to adjust the size. You can do it on the lid, or you can do it on the patch box mortise. Okay, looking pretty good. So you can see, I don't know if you remember how much we dumped in there, but we probably used, I think I can see the mark. We used, for one coat, we used about a 1/4 inch of depth of that little cup there. So probably looking at maybe like 8 or 10 guns that bottle would stain. It'll do a lot. Yep, so we'll let it dry for about a half hour or so, and then we'll be back and we'll heat it up with the heat gun. Okay, we're back. It's been about a half hour or so, and mostly dry. It may be a tiny bit damp, but it's pretty good. So we're gonna go with it. So you can see it kind of has a green, nasty color. Don't be afraid of it. It's gonna change color a lot. Okay, so in order to change the color, we have to heat the stock. Traditionally, that might have been done with maybe a forge. It could have been done with a bar of iron heated in a forge, etc. But we're going to use a heat gun, and it will work fine. Sort of a medium setting. When you apply the heat, you'll see the color change. Any cheap heat gun will work. Hair dryer won't work. We have that question a lot. So you have to heat it sufficiently. You want to heat it enough that you see a dramatic color change. You don't want to scorch it. We're just going to get after it. We'll be able to hopefully be able to see. See the color change?
Why do you keep it moving like that?
Because you don't want to burn it. You don't want to scorch the stock. High areas, corners, things like that can scorch. You see we have a little bit of fuzz. So we raised the grain when we sanded this stock, but we didn't do that again after we carved. So you can see in this area there's a little bit of fuzz that's sticking up. We'll take some Scotch-Brite and kind of burnish that down, cut it down a little bit, and it should be minimal enough. Shouldn't be a big deal. So now you're saying, well, it's got a nicer color, but still isn't showing that nice stripe. Well, it won't. It won't show the nice stripe until you put oil on it. Oil's your finish. This is just your color. So don't be afraid. But by the looks of it, this piece of wood is developing a very nice color, I think. See a little spot that I missed right up there. A little white. Hopefully I can touch that up. I was thinking I'd just do one coat on this. Usually if you miss a spot, it's best to go over the whole thing. I'll see if I can't just touch it up a little bit. You want to heat enough. If you don't heat enough, some of that gray or green will remain. So make sure you heat sufficiently. But it's coming out a nice color. There's a little spot right there that I missed. They could be touched up a variety of ways, even aniline dyes, things like that. Pretty good. It goes pretty fast. See anywhere there's a little green? Probably means you didn't heat it enough. Looks like it's going to be developing a very nice color. Go ahead and do up here just a little more. So you want to heat enough that you see that dramatic color change. Sometimes we've seen stalks, people have been afraid to heat enough, and they just, they still have way too much green and gray. They look pretty bad. The reason why I'm keeping this moving a little more in the ramrod glue is that those corners along the edge of the rim are good to scorch pretty easily. Since they're so fine. So oftentimes I would do 2 coats, but I think I'll try to just do 1 coat on this just because I'm a little lazy and I think it's a pretty good color. A little green there, try to hit that area a little more. Had a little bit of a green hue right in there. Okay. There's just a tiny little spot. Probably okay. Heat it up. Didn't seem to take very well, but I'm not too concerned about that little spot. If I want, I can put a little aniline dye on there or something, but there might have been a little oil on there or something that kept it from the stain from wanting to take. I don't know. Not a big deal though. Heat it up enough I could scorch it and make it go away. But good.
Is it a little green in there?
Yeah, we could. End grain usually doesn't color quite as much, so we could put a little bit in here. The stain absorbs a little deeper. You have to heat it more, so that's more of an end grain region. I think we did pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and now we have color. Now we need to put our finish on. Here's a little bit of fuzz that I was speaking of. Get the light right, you can see it. That's the grain kind of raising up with the water-based stain, but it's pretty minimal, and I'm not too concerned about it. So we'll put the oil on with some Scotch-Brite and scrub it, and it should be just fine. So I think we're gonna have a nice color. We're gonna finish this with Permalyn sealer. There's a lot of different products that you can finish a gun stock with. And a lot of them will do a very, very good job. It comes down more to technique than it does product. And if somebody insists you have to use this product or you have to do, you know, that's the only way to make a good looking finish, I wouldn't trust what they say, because there's lots and lots of different products that can do a very, very good job. This is one that we happen to sell. It's called Permalyn Sealer, made by Laurel Mountain Forge. It's a pretty thin finish, penetrates well, dries fairly fast, very durable, water resistant, looks pretty good. Good, so this is liquid, which is good. Sometimes this stuff will harden up, but it's liquid, and as long as it's liquid, it's good. Let's just dump some on here like this. See how that does. Now this is where you start to, actually I should have put this on with Scotch-Brite, but we'll scrub it with Scotch-Brite, it'll be fine. This is where you'll start to see the beautiful, beautiful color come out. Every piece of wood, or most every piece of wood, will stain different too. So, really soaking it up. So this might be the exact color a lot of people like. It may not be, but with iron nitrate, you're fairly stuck with the color. Now, for me, what I had in mind, this might be just a little darker than I wanted. And that's primarily because there's a lot of curl in this wood, and it's soaking up a lot for the stain. So I'll probably rub this back with a little bit of Scotch-Brite, try to lighten it up a little bit. But it is a nice color, you know, kind of a medium brown, reddish, orange color. far as the inlets go, we can take a brush and we can put some sealer in the inlets, but traditionally, inlets were not sealed or finished in any way. None of the gun stock finishes that we use are really impervious to water, so the water is going to get in a stock one way or the other. As long as your parts fit well, they pretty much block off wood or moisture from entering the inlet, and I don't get bent out of shape about it. Some people are highly concerned about that, I found out, but all original guns, people that know original guns will say the insides are never finished and they work pretty well. But I often will put a coat if I'm feeling like it, but if I'm not feeling like it, I won't. I think we'll put a little bit of this in a container, then we'll get some Scotch-Brite, and we'll scrub it a little bit, and then we'll see how it looks.
Under the cheek, you need a little.
Right in there?
Thought I saw a dry spot.
Yeah, right in there. There we go. Okay, so we'll get a container and pour some in it. Now, this looks a little darker than I'm used to. I may have tinted this, I don't know. Sometimes I'll put in a little bit of color in it, but I don't know whether I did on this or not. I could have. But to me, I don't remember exactly, but it seems a little darker than it often is. I could be wrong. So you can add different things like aniline dyes to the oil to adjust the color. Rub it a little bit with this Scotch-Brite. That'll smooth the stock up. And it'll lighten it up a little bit too. I may end up putting this in a vise because I'm getting tired of holding this with my hand. Okay, so we're going to scrub this a little bit more, make sure we get all the areas. But we don't want it to puddle up in the carving either, so we'll take a brush and we'll make sure we brush it out of the carving. A toothbrush works real well for that. A little weak on oil there. Yeah, it's an oil weak. Careful not to round over those corners much, if any. This can be done wet, or you can see it's drying out too. It doesn't really make any difference. We'll get some more finish on it. That's for sure. Side looking not too bad. Got a brush. The toothbrush works well, but I didn't seem to have one, so I'm going to use this little bristle brush to get in the carving a little bit. It'll help burnish things down. Smooth them up, get any fuzzes off there. We'll get most of them anyway. Okay, so that side's looking pretty good. It'll come to life again when we get more finish on. The reason it's looking kind of flat is because there's not finish on it right now. It sucks it up again. So that little layer of film of finish on the surface is what gives you that really dramatic look. And it takes a while to build that up. You'll have to put on maybe 5 or 6 coats or more in order to get that built up.
So go around the carvings, you try to get it in there.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay.
So this carving was done with a V tool. And we use a water-based stain. One thing about V tools is they can compress the wood, and they don't make it the cleanest cut as compared to stabbing in and using a knife or gouges or chisels to make the cut. And you can have some fuzzies that develop, and I'm just trying to get in there and smooth things off a little bit. If it rounds off that corner just a little bit, I don't really mind. Just a little bit. It just tends to soften the carving a little bit and just make it look a little better. Some more oil on here. The reason that lower is looking flat is just because it's absorbed all the oil. Using the toe line. You don't have to rub it this hard. I'm just doing it because I want to lighten this up just a tad. Come on, baby. Okay, I think it's looking pretty good. Try not to damage the stock here. Pretty good. I'm going to do a little less up the forestock. It's handled a little less, and I think we can leave it a little bit more natural up through here. We'll probably end up darkening selective areas of this stock too, so we'll give it a little buff in here. Lighten it up just a little bit. The glove is torn. I'm going to take a paper towel and wipe off any that's on the surface here real quick. Maybe buff it with that bristle brush to get it out of the carving. And I'll probably put one, let it absorb a little more, and then set it up to dry. You don't want this stuff to puddle anywhere and dry, or it'll look garish and shiny in little back little areas, and it'll look really bad. So don't do that. So here, get this out of this carving. Get out of that carving. Okay, we'll try to pick out my gloves here. Put a pair of gloves on. We'll give it another little coat of finish. Make sure none's puddling anywhere, and then we'll set it up to dry. Sweaty fingers, these are going to be about impossible to get on. I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, so we're just going to put a little bit more finish on. There you can see the nice color we got. Kind of see that nice. Just a nice color. Okay, we'll move a little further forward here with this. little more on it, and it's starting to get a little tacky, so I have to be careful and move fairly fast here. I don't want it to be sticky on the surface. I'm not worried about the ramrod groove. I can get more coats on it later. Yeah, I can get a little bit here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another paper towel, wipe off any of the surface. Actually, I'm going to brush it first, then wipe it down with a paper towel or a rag. Get that again out of the carving. Can't be in the carving or it'll look bad. Like I said, toothbrush works very good for this. Just buff it down a little bit with that. Make sure there's nothing laying on the surface. By kind of burnishing it, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm already developing a little bit of a finish. So it didn't just keep on soaking it up. By burnishing it, kind of blocked it off just a little bit, blocked off the pores. And we're already developing a little bit of a finish. By finish, I mean a little bit of sheen. Here it's sticky, but we'll get that buffed off. And if it does get sticky on you, you can just use some more finish. And it'll soften it and cut it. We'll adjust this color a little bit as we finish the rifle, but I think it's a very good start. We can set it aside, and then we'll do the box lid, and we'll come back a little later once this is dried. It should dry probably for 24 hours, but you could probably do it a little sooner. So again, we have to heat it. Now, one thing when we're making these kits, we try to select the box lid from the same wood as the rest of the stock. It's not always possible, and in those cases we try to find very similar wood. But don't be afraid if the color should not match exactly to the stock. Sometimes that can look okay, but if you find that offensive, you can adjust the color on the box lid a little bit more with aniline dyes. Aniline dyes that we use a lot for that purpose are Trans Tint. It's a product we sell. You can also use pre-mixed dyes that we sell. We sell the Laurel Mountain Forge products. And we may end up using some of it on this gun to adjust the overall color as well. Finishing is sort of like, I don't know, I think for most people that have experience with it, you kind of it develops as it goes and you adjust as you go, and with that technique you kind of learn different processes. So I'm going to scrub this down a little bit just to smooth it up. It's the last time I put oil on before I scrubbed it down, but it doesn't make much difference. We can do it either way. Okay, so get a little oil on there now. Pretty nice, isn't it? Pretty good. Keep on putting a little bit more on this box lid, let it soak up a little bit more.
heard that some people use a lot more finish when they do a gun, like they let it soak more.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've heard that too, where some people say they use more than a freaking can of this, or half a can, or something. I don't know. When they do a gun, and you can see I use not that much, and I don't just let it keep soaking in. I kind of burnish it down, let the finish set up just a tiny bit, rub it, and that kind of seals up those pores. So I see no real reason to just keep letting it soak in the wood. You're getting all your protection from the outside. What's in there doesn't make much difference. So I do it kind of different. You can see there's already getting to be a little bit of a sheen on there.
Yeah, there is. It's nice.
Which is surprising just for this first sealer coat, And I think that happened sometime because we kept putting it on and it started to set up just a little bit, and then rubbed it and it kind of formed a little layer there rather than just sucking in the wood. And maybe it wasn't the same piece of wood as the stock too. You never know. Rub this lid back a little bit. That's probably looking better. Let that sit for just a few minutes, and then we'll come back with that rag and buff it a little bit. Okay, the finish is, we're getting a little bit of a finish on the box lid. Just going to kind of buff it down now. Make sure there's no finish lying anywhere, and then we're good to go.
So the goal is to buff it before it gets sticky?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of playing with it a little bit. You don't want it to be real sticky. You can't get it off the surface. But if it sets up just a tiny bit, it seems to kind of allow you to build a little finish a little faster. But all that's optional. You can just wipe whatever is off the surface, I think that'll be fine. Let's stick it in the gun. I may not want to slide in there well because of the wetter finish, but yeah.
It looks nice though.
I think that'll be fine. I think it'll look good. It's a nice piece of curly maple. So this is red maple is what it is. Not sugar maple. But sugar maple or red maple make good gun stocks. Okay, I'm going to roll it over now. But I'd encourage anybody that's staining curly maple for gun stocks to use iron nitrate. So what's left with this gun is we'll keep on working on the finish. We'll probably add some patina, some age to it. That's all completely optional. We'll, my hands had a little finish on there when I touched it. It made it a little off there. I have to rub it. We'll polish the hardware up. We'll age the hardware. Add a little patina to it. And then it'll be pretty much done. So hopefully next week we'll do it again.